forgiveness, the kindness of the Savior, the hope of nations.
This is Chariot TV.
This is Chariot TV. Q&A live ana echego na unim say yeba Chariot TV so dia na adwuma na ne ebo no adwuma na enti yacha akunye de na je say try na echego. We are streaming live on Facebook, we are streaming live on YouTube. It's Q&A live. Just tell a friend to tell a friend that Chariot TV is live. Yaba live. I'm reading some few comments aba. We Patrick Yabi was watching live from KNUST. Okay. We just stand to be quiet and Oshe free KNUST. But say the Roy and so good evening, brethren. God bless you. God bless you for this program. Say James and so Abba watching us from YouTube. Leroy Abba, good evening, watching from Kolebu. Say GH event. Gents, it's a new week. We go again. My question about 666, where can we find? Okay. Last week we could buy. This week, and we are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube. Now, fa kwenye so actually adofwaje ejina so nyame pa echina mame hwese betime hu program na nyame pa echina yewo programs nkokra nyame pa echina etwegu. We are doing a program Mandela Church of Christ Wakra. And so ben Mandela Church of Christ bopini nyame pa echina. The program is You Can Be Sure. The program is You Can Be Sure. Topics, are you sure of your salvation? That's a question. Judge sequence and handle now church. The next topic and also are you sure you can speak in tongues? And also Anna ye bidding hojuma gospel meeting. Send a brasha that I can gospel meeting. Chariot TV gospel meeting and whatsoever Anna go into modern so ben kaswa and then patemo dia necessary. Jumedina also kwan now modern BSCC, and we'll be streaming live on our YouTube channel. We'll be streaming live on our Facebook page as well. So just keep your dial on it. Be expecting that we will stream live and you call live as well. We an evangelistic outreach. In other words, we are looking. The aim is targeted at those who are not in Christ. Or more in Christ. Or more Yakupa Sempano. Or Montinya Quenanti. And send it down in a kind of charity. You know, the pompon so power bakuni say. One more enya akwenyanti Yesu Kristo asempa no yepese ma akwenya ne ba na omuso tibi. They have to hear also muti if say so man ti omuntimi nyini enti na charity bi edwumadi no ye this partnership nti bomodin say ba pe you see akwa live just go in and be sharing to friends, family. Yepese obi enya nkwa minimum na say bia ompese obi enya nkwa dia but yepese obi enya nkwa bomodin share ma fofo na bia fofo betimi enya ntie na ma join in. I will say, yeah, my Merita so on YouTube. I say, good evening, brethren. Thank God for another blessed day. Yes, thank God for another blessed day. But Shadrach, I will maintain in the na Q&A live. None is a Q&A live for the questions and events. But Shadrach, what do you mean? Can't you
Joe, so I want to say,
Namia Dumo, now say,
rather Dumo, Misha,
yeah. Another episode. This is the 7th episode of season 1 of Q&A live. And we have been answering questions online. Ebasea na yebisa nsemwa. I say Kaime Ethiopia near ura na onam Gaza kwan so no ni ache ni krum no. Na the man was very noble. Na otiti say na mu a o say kind the Bible. And you say or kind daily graphic be and now kind chronicles and now Abia the Ghana Chronicle and Ghanaian Times and I see Bimpa will be a Facebook be and all can kind of he was interested in the Bible The Bible say all kind the krata all kind odi for Isaiah homana mu. And Philip pinchen no obisa ne say, well, what did the working can ya say? That was it. No, so well, made any matters here. He might have heard it over and over. Then you know, call temple no more, and I say, or call or do for share them more. Obi a watin in pain be say or more kind free before is there human.
Yeah.
But just the enemy pay. And the obusa and say, well, I just will be churching. The or catch us a friend or say Philip is a program in chain. Na Philip program in chain. Na look a kind a catcher in someone or can kind, baby, I know can free. Or can't chain, Anna Ethiopian Nibusa, the important question. He asked the important question. One was some Anna Udi for you. That was the important. He was not interested in Huawei now, Bema not to baby. The question is this: one was some Anna Udi for you can, and Udi for Nikin. You know, Anna Bufro.
As some way, okay. When him say, I had a charity din free.
Yeah.
So I remember about 2018 honeymoon baby. We were contemplating on starting this thing. Afi na ye din ahodo bebre. And I remember so one of the things I insisted on saying they say when person dey asafo din ebeto program no so say maybe a Church of Christ TV satan na Church of Christ TV kra omo na yesa na omo de na say din no mai into I insisted say you use a din for other than the church name instead of be number 1 omo hwe no make say oh we mu dey say Church of Christ for ntino eno anu
Untibio
other say as a asafo no hu din yengu hu fin and I say that is I mean that's the mindset I had so the that should be on because the church the Bible says that the church is the bride of Christ. Christo no the Christo they say what me funny din you raw from yo what about two for a year din e dey air raw from
what do you money we say how
there be until me decided say I mean I insist that time the team I know more home said no I wouldn't agree saying for church in the emblem. So we say the purpose is to teach people, those who want to learn. That's the purpose. The purpose is that there's a backup for but so that they will teach people. The Papa can say ebo me then I'm I just will be church and I'm say and yen create charity among for babetinum na de achire jo na afi aka logo a ibe use ana e ka kire abrante bi so onye logo man na okofa logo bi be o mani age ho e wa na obi send me information say woni mi say logo na akwa ande bae no I school bi logo UK and I'm saying and I'm friend I'm say okay this is the idea yep baby as a ponko eso cross and that's how come we came up with that logo. You know, this issue of I just will be chiremeno. Yo, the truth is say you know you see there, maybe tell me see there, wo to see there.
Yeah.
Say, but your level of in there, baby will be an there level na aqua could do. It's you know, I think say senka you know be yes adwin to the papa no kuta sa adwin say I want to learn, but I need someone to help me. Yo, I think say we'll go far. That's a beautiful thought. And Ethiopian unique now or can't want some Joe.
Yeah, a beautiful thought. And send it Ochi and International Manager say Ubusa the important question. No, Q&A live seeks to address. Let's ask important questions. Bible there are some questions you can ask. For instance, Ubusa say na Kenya and Yiri free. no one is reading the say. Those are not important questions. We able to ask questions na fe be do be na fe. The important na ga say busa. He asked the important question to the extent that the question is say who asem odi for iken odi for no ana obi foforo. Na Bible say Philip gina sa asem na so echeche no Yesu Christo ho asem. And omunam skwan no kona onyankwa. So the goal is send be a one aba Christo mu no. Anyoma egichim or wadwene mu. Anyoma e create confusion or wadwene mu. Obetimi abusa na wonya ho ntiase. Ana wom so a oyehwe no kre. Won a kwado na tene ho kon ni sukom de wom no. Wom so ebebusa nsem na womame. Eno ho asem ana ye wa ha on Q&A live. Into aba so a ima wakwaba. Bomode na hit on the share button. Na share ma foforo. The charity be home komocha foforo se ne be ya they can come in and ask questions. They can seek for questions, seek for answers. And my hope also promises say you share ibu nipa bi o taika o se the onim no ofia okunu. And that is paramount. It's true in the secular sense and it's true in biblical sense. Go school no say obi go school na osua onim biribi na obisa ohunu osua obehunu sanso na nyakopon kwan so no Bible de sua mu no de wonim no usua obehunu de ni obi a de ma no a ono de usua ohunu ana ni obi a ono oba no ye de ma ye de adisua ne she de tim a na onim dada ye nyina isua ni hu. So it's in the right direction that you open a platform where we ask for questions and people give answers. But answer na ebeko questions no so no yeah kai at the force Charo TV app no so on download ya but more than download the Charo TV app no. They say app no I hot kick I to say you know Oliver Twist say give me more no that na hot kick so download the app oko maybe a smartphone kwa dia oni anu just go on Google Play Store is there. Charo TV app is there. Oko iOS app more Charo TV app remember. And meaning iOS app store no boy buy announce what download nyoma ye nyina they will be notifying you and giving you more information on things that you are planning and doing. Nyina you get them and bomodena check it those things out. And our website is also running. Just go and check it out and give us feedback. Charo TV no the boy made to improve on nyoma ye no the feedback from brethren. And you know feedback. So you go there, you look at it and tell us. You send us a mail or send us a message that we were. I think that if you are moving to say and I think that more improve has say no those are feedbacks we rely on to build the platform. Then baby to me, I solid na etimi edi juma ye pese edi mine. Ye go near simple. Send a medical economic the dame koso come. Send a enjoy you mechi no enjoy you mechi preach unto which the preaching I bid thee. Preach unto it the preaching I bid thee. That can't be any better sermon than that in the book of Jonah to preachers. As someone medema was a fakano. Fenoa fako. Nti eno ho na enwe your high ye be. Nti Bashadak first question the aba. Nti o try so abomodena drop in your question. First question no has to do with 6666. I think the last time the person asked is 666 biblical. That is GH Ibn. Obisa Assassin says 66 biblical. But it's biblical in the sense that it's in the Bible. I the last week, or the Bible, I was thinking about it. Say, hey, okay, biblical. What does it mean by biblical? But biblical, because it be a biblical, it means in the Bible. For instance, baptism is biblical. Predestination is biblical. They are Bible words. The word Titan is biblical. A Bible there is related to the Bible. We say something is biblical, it means that it's related to the Bible, something like that. But it is binding, or what does the Bible teach on it? And it's a different case altogether. And that is what Mijidi said, brother no Ebusa. But quickly, the word 666 appears in the Bible. It appears in the Bible one time, just once. In the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 13, verses 18. Let me quickly go there. Revelation 13, verse 18, or say,
I think
here is
16 na
okay.
accepted the context. No.
Okay, I'm 33:16, or say, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark on his head, to receive a mark on his right head, on and no one may buy or sell except one has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man. His number is 66. Here is wisdom. I mean, kind verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and the number is 666. Well, the background, the background starts the entire book of Revelation is situated this way. Chapter 1, we see Jesus Christ being portrayed. John now that Jesus Christ, and he described Jesus as the Ekuno, not associate, not someone who be a Christopher didn't change any that so John described Jesus Christ in chapter 1. Chapter 2 and 3, Jesus started looking at the church. Said, well, though you are being persecuted, or but I mean, what good will it be? Say, me, Jesus, you are calling upon me to punish the Roman Empire or to punish those who are persecuting you, when you yourself are living ungodly and are unfaithful. So that is the idea of chapter 2 and 3. So Jesus was calling upon them. Say, most of them mention Kofuya, but it seems that more your own house, your own backyard needs some sort of cleaning. So 7 churches, Jesus wrote letters to them, telling them things that are wrong with their own backyard. They should fix it. So Ephesus nyane de, Thyatira nyane de, Smyrna nyane de, Sardis nyane de, Pergamos nyane de, Philadelphia nyane de, Laodicea nyane de. You say those 7 churches in the Asia Minor, now modern Turkey, that region, Ephesus, and Jesus told them what they need to do in 2 and 3. Chapter 4, then he introduced the idea to them, say God is still under control. You see, and found say the way a Roman Empress number na omoye he akakabinsa omoye ne mra omoshishe anything musitata Christopher. Well, it doesn't matter. God is still under control. So he gave John a chance to look into the windows of heaven, if you want it that way. Then he saw God sitting on his throne with the heavenly beings, and he is the center of the universe. I mean, the funny thing, this week now, one teacher be catching me. They asked me about as a science teacher. And say, what's the teacher need be church? So there's a center of the universe. The earth is the center of the universe, which is not true. The earth is not the center of the universe. The universe don't have a center. But biblically, God is the center of the entire universe.
Yeah.
Bible kwamunu, Nyankopon is the center. Everything revolves around God. It's not, you take God out of it, nothing goes on. So everything goes past. Everything has something to do with God. He is the center. And John wanted to motivate the Christians, despite your hardship, despite the things you are going through, God is at the center of the universe. In chapter 5, then as John was seeing these things, well, he was 5:6, he saw a voice in the midst of the heavenly host. Obi tiamu said, well, and Homamu boye be a war, your tick in one swore. They were the nappy in some, and Homamu boy is screw. Just to be a paper like this, something like that. And yet cat like that, but it's something like screw like this. And Homamu boy like this with seals on it. 7 seals screw on the right hand of the Ancient of Days, the one who sits on it. And the question was, who is worthy? One the father said, Obeji Humei, na otin and swan. And John standing, giving the privilege of witnessing what is happening, so that no one was coming up. And John was surprised. Really, no one, with all these celestial beings. One war as of dom, when as of dom near the Adene, Nioma war obedient to me, Quajum Mumbo ye, now on things one we know. And Bible says, or shall say, I know what it you. Hey, because the symbol, the scroll had things that are kept inside that needs to be revealed. On your man, ya kuchire umwa, was here then a day. So if ye miamwa, oh, who need the what is the outcome of all the pains and the suffering that we are going through? What is the outcome? So who had any as John every dino. Now all expect to say be a wine never geno. The Bible emiete assess ampa. About a source of domino bako ever catch as a uda to bossy. Your grandma be a said you wokuno on the fata. See on the fata or fata. So or J and swanono. Na or J and humano. Now tin and swano. And truly, John see who sampa ugamana beje. Now, Ocean chapter 6, chapter 6 and chapter 7, no, Nina chapter 6 rather, or the things one no maku 6 ano 6 seals Nina breaking Nina. Chapter 7 seems to be like broadcast in parenthesis, like a pause in a scene. As well, my pause or commercial break. And he answered the question that is in the last verse of chapter 6. Last verse of chapter 6, that is Revelation 6, verse 17. Or say, I can say the do. Why in the bit me? So John paused and answered that question. Why in the bit me? The answer is in chapter 7. One more was so no see. Those who have been sealed, those 144,000 people who have been sealed. Omo and a bit me aso omona ombetimi adina nyankopon atemmuano because omona yeso ono. And in chapter 8 the seventh seal is broken, but the seventh seal introduced 7 trumpets, something that announces God's judgment. Nyankopon atemmuode ba Rome so no. There's something that announced it. Now, say neighbor. So we see the 7 trumpet being blown. But in chapter 10, John then na obofo ne tie mu se wura brabeje homa no ne di na kam nsem iti John dibika ntemara se okogye homa bi ekura obofo ne nsem oduru ho no na obofo ne tu no fo se wura homa na awogye no se udi a wonum ne be dedede ba woyem ebe nyonyono. That is what is in chapter 10. Udi sa homa no a wonum no ebe dedede ba woyem o mini wi a ana bum se ade na enyono. And truly he handed over the scroll to John, and truly after eating, it was sweet in his mouth but bitter in his belly. Odi ye no na numu ye the frem but ne yemu de na enyono e de na pesa kire. John realizes say Yakopon atemu na obon kai ye say eban. His own people, ne nkrofo no a omo a oni omudi ocho omo so omo sum nyame kro no a, they are at fault in some of these things. So some of them will be hurt. Some of them will take part in a condemnation. You see, say that I can say easy to tell people that, well, you are lost. But sometimes you turn around and realize that sometimes your own people, wow, mianom, wow, ma, wow, oyere, wow, namfu, wow, nkofo bi awdo wo na omo nsusu enam kwabone nso. Ba kwabone kro no a wo ka ho asem no mo nam so. Urabia no preachy. I remember preachy sana o pitch no catch nkofo ne say o pitch about bonsam jam pitch about bonsam jam sa na nkofo no nyina etie o nyina ekuo no catch say Sunday mesrɛ mu amomra sorry mesrɛ mu Sunday momra sorry na mo ba sorry amomra metie dey ye worse than bonsam jam. They are worse than bonsam jam. So the people miss, hey, bibi are worse than bonsam jam so. Or say yes, bibi are worse than bonsam jam. Say momra sorry go nyame pa Sunday ho abama. O sha se o kasa na so mo ka che won say they are worse than bonsam jam ne say. Wo ko bonsam jam no na obe dan wani na obu say oban so di wachi. Wo ko bonsam jam obe dan wani no na obu say obe di wachi. Eba. Odofo bi di wachi. And that was what John saw, that the scroll was bitter and sweet in his mouth, but bitter in his belly. Chapter 11, we are introduced to two witnesses. Adansefo mienu a omudi Nyankopon asem ho adanse a wona wo wiase kum won na ujampoko chapter 12 no so a we are introduced to the old time battle. Ntokwa akoso the ancient war which we were enlisted ye nyina no watwere yendiam ye nyina ya be ntokwa no mu. The struggle between evil and good. The struggle between evil and good. That is an old-time cosmic war, greater than any guerrilla warfare. Of course, yes, there is no guerrilla warfare that is greater than that. It's not just a civil war, but this one is a world war where there is a struggle between good and evil. That's the scene in chapter 12, where good and evil are struggling to take dominance in Unipa Brabon. And in chapter 13, where the passage now can one, we see two henchmen. Because a henchman, bonsama powerful, my powerful me, oh, bonsama powerful me, no, or the omuye juma. Bako a land beast, Bako a the sea beast. That is what is in chapter 12, chapter 13, as you see. If you want our question now, we want a question now, Ubisa and wo. Jewish as our kind chapter 13 now, but you see a sea beast. How di can once more describe or to say ye na wo ye ne say okan busisem okan verse 5 no a okan busisem ne bi na no a busisem okan akopon sem mo busisem ni ade o tata man ni ade. And oku wanim kakra nso a then we are introduced from verse 11 we are introduced to another beast okan ho asem the land beast. So the two henchmen of Satan, the sea beast and the land beast. Bonsam use some more some kofu na sani ade e de kutia Nyankopon krofo. And that is what the text is talking about. And all kasa ansem no ana o twa adwingyina so say sa beast no ne number na sense there if you want it the nipa sense there. That's what he said. He says, here is wisdom, let him who understand calculate the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man. Number bear 666. Meaning kofua omo 8666 miensana bibi ayo omo. Number plate 666 miensaba ma onye. Telephone number 6666 onye. Onye. Davi onye.
Okay, last time you check
Yeah, video, yes. Channel TV videos. Video to do for some time. YouTube, a boy about was or catching and said this is the number of videos it was 666. And that's where the number is. Revelation 13, verse number 18. It has puzzled scholars for years. Because I heard in Nigeria for so many years. What's the meaning? There have been so many people trying to decode the meaning. Ubia to spellidi. I think I went on a liberated system on trying to show. I don't have the record here. I would have shown some of them to you. Some of them are funny. But Ubia tried to use the 666 to spell a name of someone in a world history. But near the John H. John doesn't have a particular man in view. Doesn't have a particular man in view. Though it fits some people in history that they were persecuting Christians, they were tormenting Christians and things like that. Fine. But John didn't have a particular man in view. He's just talking about that. Nipa now, the tormentor, bonsamne henchmen, bakwa o yusu no. Enya ade etina hoda. You see, the number no is a number of a man. It is 666. It's short of perfection. is short of perfection, which is 7, and it's triple, it's a trio, total incompleteness, and that is what he says 666. So I think that's something that bit that maybe you add more to it. Now it's a question for Abaniako.
Yeah, Joe, I think say you have given a very great summary of the book of Revelation. Not all, but at least maybe I did no. And Joe say nipa sesade we are here, a lot of things will be easy to understand. So what I say, because people say all kinds of things when it comes to the book of Revelation. It's surprising where they get the ideas from. Must say, you know, yes, we can go into various kind of calculations to be able to reach who that person was. Who that person was. But the truth of the matter is that the text was not talking about just one person. It was talking about a particular office, which has to do with the Roman Empire. So the emperor was the one that the book of Revelation is talking about, because Omuna persecuted the church, and Satan was using the office of the emperor to persecute the church. And so John is saying, say, all the things that you are going through, remember, whoever is in charge is a man. And there's a picture be a Joe, okay, but why elaborate? I'm a person among for basso. In Revelation chapter 4, no. But sorry, Revelation chapter 4. The Bible tells us, say, there is something in front of God as he sits on the throne. Revelation chapter 4, no. The verse, I think the verse, Joe, the verse 6, you know. Also, and before the throne that God is sitting on, no, there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. Now, say, the rest of the reading, Joe Uchechirimu said, there's this person who stands on the sea and also standing on the land, right? Now, when you progress in your studies of the book of Revelation, where they said, to me be a free sumu eba, not to me, no, ever matter was access on it. So this whole picture has to do with the Roman emperor now, or persecuted church, and the time is going to come, he's going to hand over to Obia. The church is familiar with. That is the picture. But and yet the book of Revelation, the area, maybe Joe straight talks, so I say, shall say going to study the book of Revelation and bring some of these things out. Now, in front of the throne of God, no, the sea is seen as a glass before God. It is when say me nipa na mijina empuma nim na empuma na mijina nim ketwa no. I have control over empuma no. That's the point. I have control over the window. So this whole sea no is before God. Which tells you, say, the one who sits on the throne has power over what is in the sea. Do you get a picture? What is in the sea? And at the sea, no, and the 2 million more are persecuting the church. So the text is telling us, whoever is persecuting the church, no, ni 2 million is limited, because he's before the one who sits on the throne. So God is seated, and the sea is seen as a glass before him, meaning he has control over it. And then he goes on later on to tell us, actually, this guy from the sea in the crown, he is just 666. He's a man. He's a man. He's a man. It, telling you that a friend is saying the incompleteness of that person. Nipa nutumi awono. in Drew baby. So what is our picture and I say then you have to then go into it and say, okay, so who was he talking about? And Joe, at that time, no, it was the Roman, your friend is saying, Emperor Oteso. But I want to emphasize that it was not about one person. That is what a lot of Bible scholars have tried to link up to, and that is why anybody be a baby as na so ya gidi and ya the say na ko eden akomano o say Obama GB odvas Obama or say CB UN agi say CB yo say na kwa but the nipa metia say it is not John was not talking about a future person. John was talking about someone and that the Abba Eteso at that time. And so it's not a person, a particular person, but an office. You have to say a Pharaoh. Pharaoh yeah one person.
Yeah.
Office be. So the Caesar Anna John the office of the Caesar, the emperor. Those who were persecuting the church, no, the authority they had to persecute the church was coming from the office of the emperor. And it was not only one emperor who persecuted the church. No. Nero did it, Domitian did it, Claudius, and Debre. And almost persecuted church. In fact, the persecution, I would say, we started from the time of Tiberius. What must I say? People have been persecuting the people of God for a long time. And the book of Romans is telling us, my picture be meaning if I should bring it up again. Now, Kase, chapter 1, why identify Jesus. Chapter 2 and 3, what I say, okay, you are crying unto me for rescue. But no problem. So in chapter 4, no. After so what can't from so Moses chapter 4 of the book of Revelation, then a seat a nyankopon set it up na bedwa watenase. Now if God is seated on his throne, judgment.
Yeah.
And the cry that the people were crying for, no, he is now coming to respond to the cry. And so from chapter 6, in fact, chapter 5 is going to give us the picture of Jesus coming to take the scroll and all that. Every chapter 6 or 7, they are giving us how God is going to judge these things. It will do Revelation 13 or can't say, oh, nipa na otiako nyano so nankasa no. And now whoever is persecuting you is a man. Ube uako. Oni to me na. That is the picture Revelation 13 is giving us. And you honkwa obetwaso abe talking about chapter 14, how there's going to be a war. In other words, God is supreme. God is in charge. God is in control. So people need to understand that there's nothing coming in the future cause this. And ya idea na fe na ebe de eba bisi. Joe, idea esi dada. Binumu try some link it to tell the come and be linking it to the office of the Pope, calculating the calculation in there. Ubetima calculation so the name of a O2 for office crowd ubetima can name be a calculating says a country be a ubetima calculate country ni biama country ni free hanum amount for betima analysis say whoever want to do it, they can do it. But the question is where was that Pope no office no during the time of John Ocho?
John Ocho Revelation.
Obama during the time when John Ocho Revelation no. And John was not telling us there's going to be a man coming now. John was telling us your persecution is going to continue. It's going to get worse. That's the point he was making. But he was saying even at its peak, persecution Remember, say the person or whoever is behind the persecution is a man. He will die. That's the point. He can go to sleep. Obetima koda. He is weak. He doesn't have absolute power. He's not omnipotent. That is all the text is telling us. And Joe, I think that these things are clear for
Yeah, it's clever. That I vicarious day. When I'm say poop as the upon and money sad no pa. There was a Catholic theologian means so yeah, and so they as the for more prophecy.
Ellen Jane White.
Ellen Jane White or spelling Ellen Jane White. Cabo one I say pepe. I'm almost so. And you can go on and on and on, but the moment you go that tangent, you miss the point of the book of Revelation. The entire book of Revelation is to motivate the Christians that God's tomorrow is coming. Don't be down. Just be faithful. Copy with them. Just be faithful.
Let me just add something quick. A funny moment. 80 says can Obama and UN said the amount for a calculator poop. Yeah, it's one more Revelation, the book of your friends. The time when John Revelation. Obama heading.
Oh, what's the motivation for them?
What say Eradi. Now, so don't worry. Obama, you and Beba in 2,000 years' time. Just think about it. It makes no sense to them. The book was written to a group of people, Christopher, at that time. If whatever John is going to write to them was not going to be a comfort to them, or it has nothing to do with them, Joe, what was the benefit of it?
Yes. Yeah. So that clearly states. And John wrote it to motivate them. Say, despite the persecution, despite the hardship, the pain, the suffering, they should hold on. They should hold on. And truly, so it's just telling us that the Christians won. The Christians won. So what there is this Caesar Bakwa, Julius the Apostate, one of their realest Bako, Julius the Apostate, a Roman governor Bakwa. Now so had Christopher. In fact, his picture and said he went around telling that he will ensure that he destroy everything that has something to do with Christianity. So he had a bunch of soldiers and the town no man destroy almost say Christopher they were doing that. So the Christians named him Julius the Apostate. The Apostate. And he went to a little village. Now Oduru Hona call or say Nadam Fubia na Tamwa Oko school, the primary and I can say primary school, Oko primary school. Sat down for no that town, but down for a Christian. So he was wondered, but down for a Christian. No, so key. Sanatia, Obakon down for couldn't come. So he disguised himself, put on some clothing, escaped no corner, Oko coffee, more busaya, no Kuhuna down for. Anna, or than when the channel didn't come. And then a bon commander, Ubusan say, if I then the Georgia, I've forgotten the name, the Georgia, or George. What is this Nazarene doing these days? Because as I pass through the cities, baby ana musore no. They say when you ya say no. As I pass through the cities, I mean baby ana musore no. One more sorry ni ya say ho, yes say when you. So dear pa na wo yes they say the Nazarene carpenter no dear na wo. That's what he normally mock. Or more can say carpenter in dear na say wo. Now na Christonia and down from the catcher is Ura. He's preparing a coffin to bury your empire. He's preparing a coffin to bury your empire.
I'm about to see buried.
I'm also. And the last words of Julius the Apostate, and they say, As more kind, all be as more kind. Say the Nazarene has won. The
Yes, sir.
Nazarene. By that he meant Jesus Christ. And Revelation 14 verse 4, comforting. Or say one more na edi guamane chi baby a okubiano. They won. Baby a guamane tie biano mu tie mu bi. Baby a guamane na mo mu di na chiri. So that is the motivation. There's nothing like a COVID that is coming where injection our taking vaccine our is has something to do with sika eba ebenya foforo sene yare no nya
the funny they say when you look at the information they are tied to say almost say the mark of the beast in a bar untimin ento aduane untimin ton agise wo bi they say Joe Obama ni say no otwam ko it is say na time omo ka say Obama so otwam ko
say onzonum say ebo COVID ne buy so one vaccine no a dem ma wontu omo say no a
say no so otwam
ko
it tells you say like I don't know say until when will people sabi money more reason on bedwen hu say ade ekwan ya fa so chire manya sa. The Bible is so clear on some of these things, and I think say people need to understand these things. Say there are going to be several people coming every day trying to attribute or kind of allocate this thing to a certain group of leaders. Now, Joe, every season, every century, you bring multiples.
Yes,
who are going to come.
Yeah,
we don't have to waste our time on them.
Yeah, my main kind some comment about a Jatram watch a champion watching live from UAE. God bless you, brethren. A Jed and so also watching live from you at the BSC. Most Patrick KBC, welcome, my brother. Yeah, my Abigail Sam or say we thank God for today. May God bless you richly, preachers, for the good work. I want to say a John Croman so Daniel Croman watching live. You are watching, good evening watching. I want to say Jedu the question biaba.
Yo, I hope say we have clarified how the way the be a question so I tell say and I will issue.
You can GH.
The point in it say has to do with the people who were persecuting Christians at that time, no? And the text is saying say or you yes or no, they are human beings and they are going to pass on. So that is the meaning of it. And yet it has to do with at that time the Roman Empire na persecuted Christianity, Joe.
Yeah, that's it. Say don't consult. Joy don't consult the ambassador. Good evening, brethren. Please, how are you all doing? We are fine. Watching live from Accra, Tantra here. Leroy Buffo, or say, some people link the office of Poke. Yeah. Say, the Japanese and Susu, it's a teaching about marriage. Okay. I get it. The Sabbatarians claim anybody who goes to church on Sundays, yes, Sabbath Sundays. Mami Dana Dubia, I say good afternoon. God bless God's servants. Okay. Send them make a COVID no. And a GHB so the baby was so yes. What you say? Then any decent. Mami she baku question baku. It has something to do with marriage. We from Ejedu. So my question is about marriage and remarried. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 15, the Bible uses brother or a sister is not bound if a wife or a husband wants to leave a marriage. Please kindly explain and clarify whether if someone is not bound or a slave to a union, that a person can remarry again in case there's a divorce. Some preachers on other platforms said a brother can or a sister can marry again if there is a divorce. Okay. this question. I think the lectureship in the way it dealt with this question,
Yeah.
it's like your reference book will be when you ask a question, they will tell you, hey, man, go and check the reference book.
Ubusa question and I catch you say ping.
No, go and check.
Answer that. Go and check.
Yeah, but then though, of course, though it has to be answered, but we will throw more light on it. But yeah, before I you catch out of we did extensive lessons on Chariot TV on digital lectureship. Extensive. By extensive, see, we don't spend time going back to the stuff. Not necessarily, but I mean generally. I mean, I'm not talking about someone, but yeah, me and Kasano me share DP na me sa so ko hebi wana. I feel like as a meaning that. But the truth of the matter is say the more you keep watching something, then you keep on seeing things that you didn't get the earlier
at the beginning. I will share first, no.
Yes. Impo movie class and it osha bo say as a ohwe na no ho ade bi as a one who say and say na dey wait that explains this. So let's go back. Some the videos na Nyankopon adom see technology wo wi asese no. Say onipa ntimi anyusu pa amfa anye bibia anhye Nyankopon ni bonyamo a because we have the benefit of going back and watching the same video. Some of the things that they answer is extensive. The kasa no ahye ne yoman why that na ahye. So yen answer na be answer question we answer that. But answer na be answer no. Yen encourage enuanom say the whole series of marriage no solve so many of the problems questions that comes in our minds that we are facing.
Baby, what's my working on? Moment cancer crofo mo hwe Chariot TV say. And and Chariot TV nke betimi akoso aye discussion say the every week bia. Yeah, na atman baby. But you share that the gospel meeting be shim. You share that the special program fortifying the faith be shim. You share that the digital lectureship be shim for a purpose. Said about issues are if you say controversial, church in mu preachers igina ha na we igina na e twen ho no. You should have spend 1 week, 10 days, 13 days near they dealing with that issue no. You can always go back and watch it. Oko YouTube charity Sir, lesson marriage you say Joe you group into there are two playlists.
Yeah.
So that okopa umbre you can easily watch all of them. Joe nya no nko show unum say such a time as the Saukai.
Yeah, that's the first one.
The first one, you be the glorious church. To a boy discuss church no any homes and seminar and no. You be the Holy Spirit. So Holy Spirit no, I know idea be a question be about Holy Spirit be no. Joe, you discuss it. There's not a single thing wait my say because that's why I stretching days, for 10 days, 13 days, near dealing with so that a preacher can concentrate on one portion and finish it. Trinity, when Sanamanya Joe, any married, divorce, remarried. And no, to a boss, all the angles about Sasam. Joe, next year, this year, next one I be in August.
August,
4 months ahead of us, 3 months ahead of us. You ever heard the shepherding the church, which has to do organization of the church? It headquarters the same about discuss it. Elders the same. One qualify you saying, "Nina best and menina." And you know, yes, I and said about ya. Utie week new year. Why dream on the clear? Now, no to be out you can always go back and watch. Say cry up on us baby. You can always have it on phone. You can always listen to them. In the answer, you say, so it's all these things were discussed in there. In the let's encourage you. Be answer there, but Joe, how many minutes they be used to the answer? Abra will be used to 3 hours. They are there. Actually, I think say people need to take advantage of it.
Yeah, but my main kind text, I mean, his reference is from 1 Corinthians 7, verse 15. He says that, but if unbeliever departs, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such case, but God has called us unto peace.
Yes,
That's maybe all can. Or they say the only need case of Bokwa Manenko. Now, you are not under bondage. And our children say, "Nakupon frey and so first thing, maybe maybe be share ho now the beer can home first and say, Unyantia say, one can't say, or qua obitimi aware. That is not found in the text. That is not, I mean, though you can, you see, marriage issue is serious. Send to us, maybe I'm home Facebook as someone already a sebi body home or really ground. And already and of course you know say and two wada.
No, must say a sire maybe as a day.
I know say and two wada. Nipa na every body home to say be a bridge. Well, his point is clear and two wada. Someone yare in dinner way in a dinner pay. The truth is also is that when you have problem with our area, you might trivialize everything that you can. You might trivialize it. When you are in that situation, then you start trying to find out loopholes and things. The reason why there are problems is not because of their text, it's simply because they are brethren, they find themselves in serious situations where now there's a need to act. Okay, because the text in 1 Corinthians 5, 7:15 that they quote didn't tell them that yes, Paul could have just said it that okay, no, he didn't say that. Also, but one cast a war also so the text didn't say, it didn't tell us, it didn't tell us that go and remarry. That's the first thing. The second thing, so he said, Jesus has already stated the only exception.
Exactly.
The panty and one say, oh, there has to be exceptional. Take for instance John 3. I like John 3 example. John 3. Jesus catching Nicodemus say, except a man is born again. Opa kosro ebra form.
One born again now.
Yes. What do you mean that's the thief on the cross, the man on the desert, the man before the 8th there be. Jesus. The account the pabi ka ho. O Yesu na onim se. Yesu no onim se obi ebetima ayada da ne mpaso a opeso ohia je. Yesu anyu David. Yesu no onim. But say except a man be born again. Jesus knows all situations. And I'll catch it and say, except for fornication, and that settles the matter. What people call Pauline privilege is not a privilege. It's not anything. The poor person, but it doesn't contradict or it doesn't supplement. It doesn't add on to Jesus as some. Jesus as some, that is it. Paul is just clarifying the problem, which was peculiar. Sorry, was current. The issue was current. And they asked Paul, say, me o Christoni, na me who can in your Christonia. Their first question was that Akrana no the tibia to say. Paul said, no, what it. So you're Christian, and no, it doesn't affect Akrano. It doesn't have nothing to do with that. Then their question was that we're putting pressure on people who are Christians. Our mother Christian. So well, when I am young, caught it in your money, and a major I'll leave you. Jawa dear. And a poor catcher and say, well, so there you can't bind the person, of course. Because unye na kwa ana wonye na kwa nso. That is the idea. Wonye na kwa da. Wonye na kwa da. Ana wonye na kwa. Ana wonye nkoso nye na kwa. Unme na kwa nso. He has never been under such a bondage. You are never the person's slave. But one fan can say okodia any atedende metimako ware Atibi. Ataji and Ataji and Yamatidene. So called the Mitimako Wari. I remember my main cast some funny to old man be not by this Sabia make us say he died I think 2 years or 3 years ago. Now Tamana mecha de Kumasi one congregation. Now mecha marriage divorce issue here. And I make us say no. I mean, there's the only condition I'm on the buy and say except for fornication. That was the condition that I used to carry. And the man was thinking, so I was silent here, there. And yeah, my main call, why your mind not be in yame? And I mean yame, and I'm missing team call worry. We were laughing in the congregation, but the truth is that the law was not designed. Yes, you know, he knows that the exception is to protect the innocent, not to free the guilty. It's designed to protect the innocent, not to free the guilty. And I tried clarifying this. Then he looked at it. Oh, bro. At that time, he was around 80 something years old. So, hey, you remember deal? But yeah, man, share and your normal dream. And found one of the pictures is not true.
Yo, when him say, the S01E07 say, one more 8 shares are the way. When him says a passage na more kind now more cancer, a contradicted the more can. When him say Paul, a cassette here say, wouldn't be angel.
Yes, I think verse 10 or so.
What I read the same chapter noir. Me and Kobe, I read the same chapter noir. Starting from the verse, your friend is saying. The verse, I'm starting from verse 10, but when Kamenya, Kameko Mechika Krebi. Now, Marco started from the beginning, question and microphone busaino. Or say, now concerning chapter 7, verse 1 to 3. No? Now concerning the things of which you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, because of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. It will be let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. We know about the wife doesn't have authority over her body, blah blah blah. Now, and then microphone busa a question. No, say, but I say this as a concession, not as a command. For I wish that all men were even as I myself. But each man has his own gift from God, one for this manner, another for that. But as I say to the unmarried and to the widows, it is good for them if they remain even as I am. But if they cannot exercise self-control, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. It was one for Paul set the premise for the discussion. It's very simple. Say, obi anware, obi anya ne kru, obi anya ne yere. Waka sa asem na wie. Now till the verse 10 kind. Into more mu jump to verse 15 am ko say so Paul say ubetime gya akọ no. Till the verse 10 na ansa na uduru verse 15 till the Paul kind. Now to the married. When it can actually worry and say you are free, you can go. If you are not married, we are free. Since our baby who say on worry, we are free. What I say, also the time here at the Juma Baonye. But the end also. Joe verse 10 say, now to the married, to those who are married, no, I command, yet not I, but the Lord. Now I didn't think Paul, I can't say same way. Paul say, same way Jesus said, can that. Na sa command where I may command the yes na Canada. Yes is saying in Matthew 19, no, yes, made it clear, verse 6. Say, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Separate. There's a to mean titim. Verse 10 is say, just as the Lord has said already. Paul says, yes, to Canada, saying, a wife is not to depart from her husband. Hey, Matisse also for be saying, a man can intimi jawade. But Bema de Utimi Jawade, and also so anything. And as a day. But verse 10 say, a wife, he's just using a part to represent the whole. A wife should not depart, a husband should not depart. But even if she depart, let her remain unmarried. But you say ojai kwa manon waribio, or be reconciled to her husband. And a husband is not to divorce his wife. It will be no say sounds no okrusu nya awade. It will settle the issue no. Into more amoka say man kwan is not true. Verse 10 and 11 no combine no tells us say God has set the rule say oh warrior do not divorce. Now join home. Say uba and say no say person worry be what he should reconcile with the husband. Or person worry be onsan ko ni kunu ho. Now bedru verse 15 no catch us say unbeliever no depart here manonko. Now you are not in bondage. Does it mean say or say or de na wo betuma kokko ware? Sa na passage in kai. Why are we forcing our own ideas and wisdom into scriptures and the Bible no making it clear? You see, when we sit here on chariot, whoever comes on chariot, you can't offer. We are not here to share our ideas. And yeah, ideas nearby. Chariot and yes, and nothing nearby. Open share ideas at other platforms. Never share our ideas. We want the text that says the law. The Bible can. And once we could have opened a platform and do whatever we want on that platform. But there's only one thing that runs through our mind every single day. Say, if anyone speak, let him speak as the oracle of God. Now, Paul assembly say, let the man not depart. Now, so obeko dia. Opeso sawari biwa. Onsan ko ni kunu no ho. Into verse 15 no catch us say or your own believer no so kwa. Jan man kwa. It does not mean say Jan man kwa na o koko ware foforo. No. It there's nothing like Pauline privilege. Said and criminal. It's not true. The Bible even doesn't say anything like that. Any part drain on the show. Now, I'm trying to be serious. So, see, I say I came through throwing no, or say me unjai, monjai, didn't monjai. Because in Matthew chapter 19, no, Jesus can't say, the two people now God has joined together. No, God has bound them together. No, let no man separate. God has bound them together. It is our bound on a casa. Here, some of me can show you a casa. And now we do 15 now. Or casa na same way or say the Christian verse 15 no, is not under bondage. The same bond now. Question. Casa me anyway a pana. And the answer is no. Can you imagine? Greek word or use for Christian bondage, you know. The Christian bondage, you know. But who drew the bondage when I walk verse 15 now? Wouldn't say a different word no you see it. Now I want to show you Greek, you know. Yo, meaning if I can project my text here. Monja Adebi. The may share blue letter Bible no. Yo, blue letter Bible no. Yam call Matthew 1 Corinthians 15 no. 1 Corinthians 7 verse 15. Yo, you Adebi. Meaning so wetima add to it for me. Me bacho yo.
Yeah, me who.
One word we
Yes.
Dulo. One dulo we na wa no. Yo, when him say the way I wa high bondage we. Eh kasa we use Bible mu severally.
Yeah.
Na sechre enie. This is the word. Doulos, no.
Yeah, doulos.
Doulos the root word is doulo, which means to enslave. But highlight
yeah, you enslave, literally and figuratively.
enslave. And what it simply means, and say Bible na say, so worry na ukunu no. Ana wo yede no onye Kristo ni. Na o say Kristo som no ono no wabre persecution e korso wo mu no enti no. Se wo enjai a Kristo som no na wa ma mesen ame anko a ono de obegya wa wade. Obeka o say ene me de se wuntie de ameko. Bible no say sa word na o use wo ho no dulo no jo a perfect participle and a perfect tense, which means before wo no obe ware say nipa no now when yet na kwase de jo kan you were not a slave to the person, you don't belong to the person, when you the property. That's what the text is saying. And the text is saying you are not the property of the guy. You will not be a property of the guy until you were not a property of the guy. Today, I can say, even though you are not the property. In the future, you will not be the property. It will belong to wine. You belong to the Lord. It will not what be attaching itself to you. Now, be one, flesh, Mo be honam ba ko nam say ode no wa be ball and I would want to born a ma ware no mo be honam ba ko no. It does not make you a slave to the person. Enti so nso Nyankopon bio wo kɔ a na obegya wa wade a gya no ma no nkɔ. That's what the text is saying. It doesn't mean say gya no ma no nkɔ na wo kɔ ware foforo. No anuanom. Enti ne yensra sofo na yasa baka fo say the no Joe technology at the Roma. Minim say Sunday yenua eben action time the technology lessons bebraying. What ba say technology aba Joe and then yenya some faso. You can easily go and test a blue letter Joe free o. Them a project here with blue letter Bible free. You can easily see say Greek word when we use here na na sechere anything. And say oral text now the whole Kenyan say you are not a perfect tense with a passive voice in the sense say onya kwa na kwa enti jana manonko. Na Joe, what if oko no ko ware? Meaning if you want to comment on that. But oko no ko ware. First question, did you sign up for the person to go? Wangasa also ojai yenja wade o say I me cry me my bro yenjai. Then you are not innocent. When you're innocent, who no consent is on o person ni jai. And then the marriage is not breaking on the ground of fornication. Yes, say fornication is separate. Now who the kind jano? No. Mo ja wade o. Now to ten say okowari bia na odimika ba say I makon so akofa be menti no mi be jano. No, what the kind jano dada. And the ground for that our jaye no was not fornication. It go back to your wife. It doesn't matter say oh no mujaye nechi no oni be ma bi akoda and that is where people don't get it. You see that innocent, even if say if Joe when him say ukunu kobo adwaman mpo and I will yere kobo adwaman na ukoche no a, the first question is obusa on say are you innocent? So are you innocent? Because you ain't attack and say and wakobo adwaman de obetima kwakoware is true. Sara Bible canon. But question is are you an innocent person? If you are not, and a cock for ideas are. So who na what pia piano man acquire there or yeah, then you cannot stand before God and behave like oh dear we free. No, I think these things should be clarified. The text in your friend is saying 1 Corinthians 7:15. No, it's not telling you say you are under bondage. So bondage, you saw no. And your marriage bond, no one say no okay. And your baby, yes, those who are joined together, those who are bound together, let no man separate. And so bond now no. And yet the same word now, way different. Way has to do with enslave. Say will be make you slave. And that is what the text is telling us, Joe. Meaning you move on and I will be out of the count.
Well, I think we have to move on. The question is well answered. Or no, I'm GDS what I say. So send a catch out the phone. We have done an extensive lesson on marriage, divorce, and remarriage on our lectureship. Just go on our YouTube channel and search digital lectureship on our playlist. Just go and learn, look at it and try and listen to it again and read your Bible for yourself. Well, Bible no also kind. And don't interpret Bible from circumstances that is surrounding. You see, sometimes people look at circumstances and try to see, okay, case study. No, Bible is not meant for that. I mean, my Bible can na yen fix ya brabo. The be say my Bible ne kasa na yen fix ya brabo. Na mo me ma ba yen fix Bible no mane me ya brabo. Jebi na Bible abrabo. Ebeboa. So clearly no. There's another question which
there's a question from
Romans. Yeah, I say we are from Abigail Sam. I think he commented earlier. Okay, yeah. Romans chapter 14. He said elaborate on verse 5 and verse 6. Romans 14. I mean, can I comment and Sanam? Maybe you pick it up and start talking about it. We are from Yamame Cecilia Jemfi. Was watching you from Germany. God richly bless you, brothers. Jambes say Paul cannot contradict Christ and give a window to others whilst Christ is straight. Yeah, Paul cannot widen what Jesus himself has narrowed. Until me, yes, I think Paul is never easy. Yeah, entry and so I say I'm watching live from Kwame Danso. I think so. Sene. I say Isaac made as say Brother, let's take this platform serious because there are a lot of lot to learn. Yes, a lot of learning. Yeah, kind of us. I won't subscribe to your channel now. Money subscribe to your channel. But Bashar, I can answer that question. No? There is a gospel meeting that is coming on. God willing tomorrow. Mayday a holiday in Ghana. So we take opportunities of that to do gospel meetings. Yeah, gospel meeting, Mandela Church of Christ. So we'll be preaching in Mandela Church of Christ with the aim of reaching the lost. One more NT to and we are inviting friends to invite friends. Nti yemfa namfo ne one more omunya city ma Yesu Kristo asempa no. Ye invite omo hwe program. So until Mandela hokora no ye invite omo embra online. You start streaming on at 9. Starts 9 o'clock near Shasia you streaming. Na Jakwansa Ekasa, are you sure of your salvation? By topic back on so are you sure you can speak in tongues as well can na yakasa found. So the goal is to reach out to one more omuntimi be Christopher na omusetuma be Christopher nti one more kaso ampatemu ne one more betimi aben Mandela Church of Christ ometimi akomandela hono akra ampatemu ometimi akomandela hono de ebeni beje si ebehia mu nyina mo charity behia mo. So just let's get close to the place and get there on time. Na program no kwa na de wadamfo bia we invite wadamfo bia betim na ko na so etim akoti Yesu Kristo asempa no na omo so etim nyankwa. And say when timi anko now joining us live online on social media, whether YouTube, Facebook, or more than share send be afo to betimi at Yesu Kristo enka nsem no so kan no so etimi enya nkwaje amanikra. I don't know whether you want to comment on this, Antana Ibia, or the
Yeah, I
sister.
think that we're expecting people to really kind of come and support the gospel meeting, no, because we really want to. Yo, when him saying our church man, they are not sure say they are saved.
Yeah.
And some
So
of them,
Ubisana was say,
no, but Christianity is not like that. And you can be sure. You can be sure, say one kasa you are saved. You can be sure, say go heaven and I won't go heaven. You yourself can be sure. It's people need to understand Sadia. No, it's Nyame Aduma Ochina. Yo, Ochina some ne can know.
Yeah.
Ochina,
some few hours from now.
Yeah, we can really look at that and make a lot of sense from it.
Yeah.
Joe,
So,
the text, Romans chapter 14. I think that is very important. Say, you clarify and maybe whilst we move into way. Joe, number one, people need to understand why is the book of Romans written in the first place. You need discuss it lengthy, but find out say book of Romans and say they ain't no Troy. Now I'm out a short way, but that be an ABI picking yahe. So what was happening? And they say on the Christianity started, it started from Jew form, and Jew for no omo nyankopon share on say munko wiati nyinanko preach etu omo tre Christianity no na etreko Gentile world no. So yabenya Gentile world, yabenya the Christian world, the Jewish world. Womu nyina be wura Christosum. Then there's a problem because Gentiles no mu be wura no, baby omu free ba no. Niema bi wo hono mo a omo no they don't care about them. They omena bia nchekere wom say menwe praku men die we kan homeda na kronkron yewe. Eti omo free Gentile world mu na eba. And almost more Jew muno on all his life or free tete over kaya Peter kan in Acts chapter 9 obra bibi first roba ka say tidi or I rather wouldn't say free me more frase aduane bi say me need bi da it in a life nyina no eye a Jew aduane a odie enso a wonom
Acts 10.
Yes, but I'm talking about Acts chapter 9.
Yes.
Yes.
It was Acts 10. Acts 10.
Okay, so maybe I'm thinking about maybe I know maybe a Jopa. So either of them, 9 or 10. 80. The whole issue na NSA. One more life, Muno. They have lived all their life being a friend saying a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Now, say no, then there's going to be a problem. The Jewish are going to say, well, yeah, say, into who you say. The Gentiles are also going to say, no. Yeah, say. So there was that conflict even from Acts chapter 10, Acts chapter 15. And the problems with Galatians chapter 1 tells us, say, there's this problem. That's why for Paul decided, say, okay, let me write a letter to the church at Rome, which was full of Jews and full of Gentiles. 80 in his letter, no, and all country almost say, Muntia Sasemio, Obi Biara Waba Chrisosumu, either so free patriarchal system neighbor, and the Jewish system and neighbor. Now, more patriarchal system, no, one Ayeboni, Omunyame Christopher, more patriarchal system, more Ebony, or more Jew for some so, or more Ayeboni. That's chapter 1, that's chapter 2. Obiri chapter 3, no, so Omumi and Ayeboni. No Yanko point him abon. And Munties as me, the Bible was Paul was not talking about Christopher. Paul was talking about a year woman may Christopher me Jew for and a woman Christopher or free patriarchal system nemo. And then from there, no started talking about how Nyankopon yemboni munkran or my Christo be we chapter 5. Chapter 6 no kanchira kwan e befa so a ye betumi enya nkwagye Christo abewu no. And also say ope Christo ope se unya nkwade ye se uni Christo we. Na mo sorry we subo kwan so. Chapter 6. Chapter 7 no kanchira say any Christo nya wudi a ene ye yentwe ho free abrabo ane etimu no ene chapter 7. Chapter 8 and over country say Christo ewu ama ene aba ne mudi a ene na afobuo bia ma yenso ebio owie no say na ya ba Christo mu no bibi o ho betima tete ye ni Christo odomu ana. That is chapter 8 no. Obedu chapter 9 through to chapter 12 no. Chapter 9 to chapter 11 no. Now, dealing with a friend, the Jewish problem, the Jewish controversy. Now, the Jewish controversy in chapter 9, 10, 11, or talking about Jew for no almost say, they don't need Christ because Abraham has for it. Abraham has for there automatically no dia Abraham. And a Paul said, no. E kasa obeye Kristo ni ansa na wanya mfaso o Abraham eye adidie no so. It is one me Kristo ni a unya nkwa enye ye. It chapter 10 obeka kire on say ogiri se Jew for no wo mo bomoden e wo nyamesumu de nanso mu nimu de wo mo nya mehu se o ma Kristo mu a onya nkwa enye ye. It o discusses asem no. Obedu chapter 12 to chapter 14 no and all discusses say ya be hu say umpo etwa say oba Kristo mu ansa na wanya nkwagye wo ye Jew ni o wo ye Gentile etwa say oba Kristo mu no ena oba kan kire say ya ba Kristo mu ne abrabo ben ne twa say yebo ena chapter 12 chapter 13 ena o discuss say omo nkrofo na ta akomo omo wo Rome omo wo city omo sha aban no ase eti abrabo ben na ese omo bo ewo aban no a omo sha ase no. That is chapter 14. Chapter 15, chapter 13, chapter 14, and all discussing a sunny baya, a church a Christopher mienu a more banner. I'm your Jew for no mere Gentiles. No, it's the Gentile Christian, the Jewish Christian. How do you live harmoniously? A better than what Matanasia and Tokobia Emma Muntem. That is chapter 14. The Paul discussing. Chapter 15, and I'll talking about. Or shall say a letter no de enchahodo any chapter 16 or the etwaso and we read the book no. So question chapter 14 verse Joe so back verse 4.
Let me add something. Let me add something to it before we read the text. You see, who said Minianum, one hour Christian Asafu Masapaka 42. Mostly, no, you look at Romans 14, you say matters of faith and matters of opinion per se. Into Romans 14 is discussing matters of opinion. That's not the truth. That's not the truth.
That's not true. Yeah.
That's not true. I mean, of course, your matters of faith, your matters of opinion. And that thing I randomly see in the churches of Christ. Scruples. Yes, scruples. And that is what the text is talking about.
Yeah.
Romans 14 is not discussing matters of opinion.
Opinion or matters of faith.
No, it's discussing scruples. And the reason why I know it's discussing scruples is all verse chapter 14. We'll do chapter 15, verse number 1. Or 15 verse 1 will say, we then who are strong ought to bear the scruples of the weak, that we do not please ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Scruples. So there are three matters in view: matters of faith, matters of opinion, and scruples. But
scruples no yen chire mu enu am say ka how can test na ka make ba what dey abey dey yen kan ho asem sisi e. Scruples no ne say wo niam bi a wo nyini ba ni nyina no wo ye dey atetew
Yes.
Oda say obi won nneema bi onu so nyini ba na ye de atete no. Now, saade no nye bone per se. Odmas enya bone ba wo no nam se wanye saade no nti wo nyini ba no nti no. Wo fi se ade a yenye oba kan kasa mo jo mo say enam a wa mete wo maame
okay maame bukas no
emu kaso no yechi kire say wa meto say wo maame eno ananka nam a ene na yesa nanka nam no yede uchi wa meto say wo maame no aprako nam da e wo fie ho no ma na say wo aprako nam no yede uchi eti sa asem no no kra na there be a scruple say wo no wo ye wo wa ye tete wo ba no won tete mu no na ye do fa sa na emanimu so I say enti se wo be nyini na be hu se jo wa ba me fie na ma wo fufuo na enam eguso ye nanka wa dore sade kama ana ye twitwa go me bo ameka me nwi bi da na ebom me kan de aya ka asem se obeba na se ma ho na me we a me ka se kristoni na wo we nanka
yi
Debbie. Because Christoni now we proconam. Debbie. That was the problem. Your friend is scruples, no. Paul wasn't discussing matters of faith, matters of opinion in chapter 14. But
and I said scruples no to make it better, no matters of indifferent. You see, in a sense that udio when new, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the day I make us answer, I want us to situate it well so that it makes sense to us in the church.
Yeah.
Take for instance, yeah, you need to go they need hymns on pa. They need hymns on. But oba church in the say yeah, there two hymns. I say why maybe a church in the shall say
no be a try you be chorus be
no there ba. You see, then people start becoming agitated. So no, yes,
militant.
Yes,
I say two hymns. I
say two hymns. You see, it's how you were raised. How you were raised. Now, someone can say two chorus, two hymns. It's indifferent. If you anywhere you born, there are two hymns, you know, and you'll be or bro so change you want to be or two chorus, you know, and your two chorus in Yambros and change your two hymns, you know. They are matters of indifference. So that is the context. You see, the Jews in the old system or in the old Mosaic code, you know, they had things are not omunie, but Christosumu now they have been taught that no, so it doesn't matter. But there were Jews who were still confused and still had that problem. There were Jews, as a Jew or junior, or they who made the piano on Yajuma or Tifie. And I'm a memory, Saturday was a working day.
I want to buy now, yes, I didn't be
a working day.
Yes,
or no, who say a problem, a Juma that. Ain't he? So, why do we say no? My baby Christo, ni but still Saturday mean Quajuma. See, Paul say, well, so James are good for you. But Mamma can't jam a mamuni so on no so
Quajuma dance a chinchina.
Uncle Juma, a man in Quajuma, on Sunya the Juma, no minute that.
Mamma, one to say, my example about the hymn, see. Another example, bet my Ubia, young fan say, oh, yes, Dini. Na ne life nyina ya wo no ba nyina ne fie SD enti nambi wa wonye
yeah
na ebia ya de suamu ye kire nkrofo se sabat no enye binding bio no na obeyo Kristo ogitum na obebo asu a yo sanipa no obebo asu wi a na subo na yedi no kwura mu no ensesa no free the fact say ne maame eni ne fie ba ni nyina no jo onwe ebi akrante what I say it is any problem ye Christo ni wi a still na no our problem with eating akrante so what's the point na say
yeah
wona wo nwi akrante no enko force akrante on this person say chinchina onye dey
onwe akrante
na wonso so na wonso onwi akrante na ya de atete o free tete no wonso be wura Kristo mu a eme force yen so a ya re free tete no say akrante wrong to me. So that's the problem Paul is dealing with in chapter 14. So these Jews tell the Joe will step into no. These Jews no were complaining, say, okay, Joe and a crown, 80.
Adofo. The tell say maybe bread here, maybe bread say I maybe bread so say say me call na me call chat there. Bible class and kasa. So my one thing in yes, my one thing in Kebi one me call, but na me pa next week. Na me pa echina. You be share on Mandela gospel meeting. I say.
Yes, sir.
And we will also meet again. Macrobia.
For your text no na for your answer question name pon. So chapter 14, the verse 4 no. No say, who are you to judge another servant? To his own master he stands or fails or falls. Indeed, he will be made to stand, for God is able to make him stand. One person esteems one day above another. So Jew for no, they respect one day, which is the Sabbath day. The Gentile world doesn't care about the day, no. And I'll say they esteem one day over another. Let each be fully convinced in his own mind. Right? Verse 6, and they say, he who observes the day, observe it to the Lord. And he who does not observe the day, to the Lord, he does not observe it. He who eats to the Lord, he who eat to the Lord, for he gives thanks, he gives God thanks. And he who does not eat to the Lord, he does not eat and give thanks to God. So the passage is simply saying, say, Jew for no more bano, woman near Diani bi. Entinam so many aduane bi ntino. Woman the entire woman is almost to say, yeah, they are showing Yanko Point Munyam. Or some of Paul said, there's no problem with that. Gentile world no bana, worry preko free titina, worry and nambia or pebiano. And yes, obey a Christian inti or person automatically, ne namori and a change. Or no subet marry nambia ese oide or ye. Adentra, obey a Christian and Marabian shall say, Mount me namwe. And I won't so who free titi a wobano. Who's obey Christian and Marabian shall say, Jasanam weary, and I resanam we. It is a very sound you know. It is up to you. But there's nothing against it in Christianity that stop you from consuming sa enamno. There's nothing in Christianity that stop you say it can say Saturday utrefi na home and as a Sunday a Christian Sabbath and you true. What is assembly say Sunday Christian Sabbath and you no correct. It is a Sunday ubekwa adwuma sa unkwa adwuma ubetimi ni unuanom hye mu asom. Do not forsake the assembly. But it does not stop you from working. Sorry. Sorry, pon Sunday. Nothing stops me from doing that. That's what Paul is saying here. Said yedi kan scruples na ye say uwo gidie bi anase ade bi a wukura mu dendenden a enye Bible asem one kasa na u feel sa. Nanom obi kan kire me say ono o feel say ade ebeche ama awaba osom a se wote ne ho eyi ne ho free ne manyira mu enti no nema bi wa wonye aduane bi wa wonni onko ne yere ho onye we eno no fi say osom ma no. There's no problem, but there's no Bible teaching that. It is a wo fast ade no kuramu. So this was what was happening. The Jew for now, Christian for now, teachers in the church, you know, we're telling the Gentiles, say, once I be Christian, you know, Christian so free Gentile world, muneban, it was said, Udi Humeda. And I was one for positive. Don't go and judge who they are regarding over something. 80. So some no can say they be cherished, a be no so cherish. That's the point he was making there. And I'm oko Galatians 1. Also for Paul be cancer say Galatians no no one say o matwe o montem akodi san chechire nchi. Na nye nchechire foforo bia na onkrofo bi na abewura mu a wo mo epushi wo mo to do that. Enti the text is not talking about opinion or like matters of faith, it has to do with Jew for Noah, Christopher. They had problem with the Gentile Christians are no more observe Sabbath. No. It was one for Paul country say, Master, so say Saturday no problem. So we saw Juma, don't go and have a problem with the person. And I like contemporary time. Also, same way out Paul church Roman. A bin AC or a church say preachers because hey, they say Church of Christ in a hymns not to question hymns in the free by. Or mom throw hymns, a Crosby name or mom count a Charles Wesley no Church of Christ full. But they wrote hymns you're to and yes you're to be. And then you met a young guy on also bet throw hymns na you to near Seattle. So you're Christian, is only Christian. But the question is content of a yomono, a day of some neka. Say cassette Christosome there, then it is not correct. Iti mommy has an emanu ye na yam first scruples are medane a year doctrinal things and ama ye ama. So the days that Paul was talking about was the Sabbath day. Na Jew for no fee say ube Christiania say observe and a Gentiles and also so no said no, I don't need to observe those days. It that was the discussion, and the root of this Romans 14. You can see that in Acts chapter 15 and then Acts Galatians chapter 1 and chapter 2 or some for catch them say and one say omu Gentiles no I lower or myself I'm a Jew for na force to do circumcision, to observe the Sabbath and all that. Now, at them akupe ena debia meka say ube Christiania, you need to know your Bible. And yes, sir, ubi better no around edwako ye nema bia eya ono anu scruples, ono anu gidie nema. And anu scruples edoso ewo Christosum mu. Ubi wo ho a say Lord Supper no and say ye boom. Media misusu say Lord Supper na say ba akopɛ ye ton ba akopɛ eda bone mu say you bubu mu ana wo ye nketenkete a wrong scruples ebinom say hey Lord Supper cup na say one cup eight no one cup and say ye scruples it is a okwa sorry bim na say one cup there's no problem there ubetima nom no dine with the Lord. But say because a chinchina, it was and one kappa, then you are binding your scruples on the church and binding where the Bible has not bound, and that becomes a problem. Until that's what I think we can clarify on that. Sister, I give a question no clear amount. Say clear, let's know, and then we will try to answer again for you. I've seen some few comments, but we're closing up. Isaac Mays said this thing called okay, I think we've read that. Entry Ephraim say watching live from Kwame Ransom Dansona Ransom. Okay. And take Kwame Ransom or Ghana that. Brethren, let's take this platform serious because there's a lot to learn here. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Brother Isaac, so yeah, that's no support. And I know truth of the matter say we pay a lot to do what we do, so also sponsor ya o de buy beji ye ne beji ye be ma bank account Chariot bank account no to ya e de akotomo. Patrick Kabe coordinator say please does Romans 9 affirms predestination as Calvinism teaching. Okay, next week Patrick but your copy we question we to next week now the abane answer the sa question no amount and cancer essay watching live from Danger. Micha Danger for Bacho Danger for Muhu Sempakeni Achemwa Benjamin Achemwa Anoma Channel Ede Amame. Rector say I had learned that some of the prophecies in Revelation had come to pass, including 666 during the Roman Empire time. But some people are still waiting for it, that they will be raptured. Question, I think the 7 years tribulation comes. What's your take on this? I think, sir, Sister Rita, yeah, explaining how we match on a year straight talk. So, in this Charity TV app, no, na wako straight talk. Yeah, yes, our discussion no, on a year your friend saying the kingdom coming ne tribulation 7 years ne rapture ne sense ni nyina no ye discuss it on Saturdays nyame adoma this Saturday ye be discuss it ɛhɔ no nyina nti ya ye bi mesrɛ sɛ obɛkɔ YouTube anaasɛ obɛ download the app no na wakɔ straight talk sa lessons ni nyina no ɛwɔ under straight talk a wobɛtumi a go through no tie ya kyerɛkyerɛ mu ayɛ rapture any tribulation ne pray say your friends Armageddon war yesu be di 1,000 years was asase so ya yes adash ni nyina inti mesre say obekọ na wakọhwe sa videos no a friend is saying Kokodu say what about SDA person who doesn't wear earrings who has baptized into Christ and has become a member of the church aha Kokodu sa scruples in the ekana say nipa no be Christian so be shasuma the son shasuma and it's nothing. Say, we be shasuma the son shasuma. It's nothing. Ain't you know, and no, and change you faith in your hair. My own may Christian ni papa. And as I was shasuma, there will be Christian ni papa and one shall be Christian. In any case, a man now, or my shasuma. There are times that, or me or masma, they say, me, I'm hearing them say, yeah, now some of the way you go, obumedichi. Where you now some of the go. It is say, you know, smart they go on your Christian Ibiwana. See, these are the things that your friend is scruples are here can want some. It's an annoying be a then it does not matter. It doesn't change anything. Ewo u Christo suma uyenemu. It is obey Christo ni no say me free thing na no. Man sha suma de da. Enti nyese me be child of Christ ni say me sha say I'm not still comfortable. There's nothing wrong. Fatima say, there's nothing wrong. But say, who or no because say chinchina or no shasma dinti, and my what church was more shasma there, then it becomes scruple, and then there's a problem. It say aha and the distribution for your damase. Na yami aduma next week live Q&A besaba. So inti sister Rita say Rita Usu say okay videos now anye okay mpacho next week for questions see bra na ye answer emfa emma enuanom yedamo say any more mpaebo name more support mo is something that you think say you bit my your charity we beboa ama yinjumede ye na etima mo wosua de ye etima mo konkan please don't hesitate to share with us nimde any bakofo trim we are trying our best. We are always coming out with ideas and brainstorming and discussing at our management level to be able to do the best for you, the listeners, and to help you study more. If you question be or Bible version be our person who use to then our officer on your we are ready to help you. And charity platform so they say get some permission be from some places. We be upload a lot of PDF books and then Bible lessons are a bit to me ama word to me esua ade ewo eye platform no so we are always updating and trying to make it better but nina na say momwaen na yintumi enye ne ye ideas or financial support how be man ye beje na yada wase we dwumadi e kwen na o kire kanko a ni nyina no so no erade adom time bia na yenye obi ema no ebeso emu nti bosome obema $20 ye beje obema 100 Ghana ye beje obema 20 cedis ye beje obema eye account number na say mobile number na ye de etumi a support ye dwumadi no nti yeda mo ase erade enshamo aha charity TV mini Jonathan Mensa Bonsu and I'm to say yeah question and answers ewo platform is nyame adoma next week beba week bi ayeba nti for questions I will be a Bible no more problem bi out the fabra it doesn't matter all the buy ebo mo de na answer say ni ehunim dia we may ask you say next week yebe answer na yebe kwakusua nimde and all the ban temo aboa because most of my questions na ba late into me and Sansana Yapon. But all the same, no, we are so grateful for you staying with us. God bless you. See you next week. My name is Shadrach Upon, and Jonathan was my co-host. Bye-bye, Macau.